present today's cabinet highlights. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you, Chief Secretary Dr. Martin Rushwaya, members of the Fourth Estate, fellow Zimbabweans. Today, His Excellency the President, Dr. Mhlanga, chaired the 37th Cabinet meeting, and the following issues, among others, were considered and approved. Cabinet considered and approved the 2025-2026 National Multi-Hazard Contingency Plan. The plan outlines national disaster preparedness, coordination systems, response mechanisms, and resource requirements to predict, prevent, mitigate, prepare, and respond to potential emergencies associated with the 2025-2026 rainfall season. The projected normal to above normal rainfall during the greater part of the 2025-2026 season, which is December 2025 to February 2026, is likely to experience extreme climate-induced events and compounding effects that include severe storms, hailstorms, floods, tropical cyclones, landslides, and other hazards of transboundary nature. The overall aim of the plan is to strengthen capacity for preparedness and response from the national to the sub-national levels, cascading to village levels, in order to enhance timely and coordinated response to emergencies by the government of Zimbabwe, working together with stakeholders. The plan will also inculcate a culture of resilience, building and disaster risk reduction for sustainable development. Cabinet received an update on the implementation of the Road Development 8.0 projects. The road development initiatives are a government of Zimbabwe intervention to uplift the rural majority through agricultural development and industrialization, where agriculture is considered as a business irrespective of scale. Under infrastructure, the dam is considered an economy, whereby each dam project is developed as a multifaceted economic hub comprising drinking water, a supply in terms of both industrial and commercial purposes, irrigation, hydroelectricity generation, fisheries, and wastewater management. The Pfumbuza Intwasa program, which aims at ensuring household food security in terms of production, has recorded remarkable growth. The Zundera Mambo project has also been extended to all traditional leaders, including chiefs, headmen, and village heads, in order to strengthen social safety nets through supporting food insecure households in various localities. Regarding water as an economic enabler, a total of 2,542 boreholes have been equipped, and at the same time 1,544 business units have been solar powered in order to support drip irrigation, fish ponds, and water points for livestock and domestic use. Development partners such as International Fund for Agricultural Development and the Food and Agricultural Organization, the World Food Programme, CARE, and China Aid are complementing the government of Zimbabwe's efforts by establishing business units across the country. The Presidential Poultry Scheme has distributed over 2,402,000 free-range chickens to over 240,000 households. The Cabinet also received reports in terms of priority projects for the third 100-day cycle of 2025. The Minister of Information, Communication Technology, Postal and Courier Services reported progress for projects under her purview as follows. 30 health institutions were connected to facilitate telemedicine, whilst 280 Starlink kits were procured for 280 health institutions. The ministry is in partnership with Sunway City for the establishment of a technology park. 20 computer laboratories were resourced with ICT gadgets. 2 renewable energy base stations were deployed, while 4 are at various stages in terms of completion. 1,740 homes were connected to the fiber to the home digital connectivity program, and 6x3 and 4G base stations are at various stages in terms of completion. 6 LTE base stations were completed and commissioned, and the 30 kilometers in terms of civil works were completed for the Bulawayo Victoria Falls Kazungula project, and 20 sites have been fitted with traffic surveillance equipment for the smart traffic management project. The renovation of the Kasho Valley post office was completed and is now fully operational, and the Zimpost mobile application has been completed and is now in the public domain. E-learning platforms were deployed to 10 schools, and 70,000 citizens were equipped with digital skills. 50 ICT laboratories were established, and 6 digital centers were rebranded. The Midlands edition of the Digitize Zimbabwe Roving ICT Expo in Gokwe marked a key step in digital inclusion. Under the Ministry of Lands, Agriculture, Fisheries, Water and Rural Development, the minister reported progress as follows. The Mutare Grain Marketing Board silo expansion is at 95% in terms of completion. The Mangura Grain Marketing Board silo expansion is at 87% in terms of completion. Semen straws were produced for artificial insemination, surpassing the target of 10,000, whilst 91 deep tanks out of 160 were rehabilitated. 49,000 chicks were distributed, and 50 million hay bales were produced, surpassing the target of 2 million. The Kundri Dam is at 66% in terms of completion, whilst the Gwai Shangani is at 73% in terms of completion. 312 boreholes were equipped, and 156 village business units were established, surpassing the target of 100. Under the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructural Development, the minister reported progress as follows. The remaining 59.5 kilometers of the Harare-Masvingo Bridge Road upgrading is ongoing, and the 25.5 kilometers of the 357.7 kilometer Harare-Kanyemba Road upgrade has been completed and opened to traffic. The fencing of the 43-kilometer stretch of the rehabilitated Shurugu-Mandamahwe Road is at 60% in terms of completion, and the construction of the Traffic Safety Council of Zimbabwe Masvingo offices is at 88% in terms of completion. The Chipinge Mount Selinda 10-kilometer road construction is expected to be completed by the end of the year, and the Mpopoma Traffic Training Center in Bulawayo Metropolitan Province is at 70% in terms of completion. Under the Ministry of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services, the following progress was recorded. The ministry is spearheading the production of 2 landmark documentary initiatives, namely the Second Republic, the end of the National Development Strategy 1, spotlighting its achievements, and the legacy of Munumtapa, including the life and the leadership of His Excellency the President, Dr. Idi Mnangagwa. The Layer FM radio transmitter upgrade has been completed successfully, and the modernization of 2 Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation institutions has been revitalized, ensuring that Montrose is being completed and will be commissioned on Friday this week, whilst works at Pocketsville have already started. The media center renovations projects at Rainbow Towers is at 75% in terms of completion, whilst the community mobile cinematography was rolled out to Geza and Binga districts is ongoing. The country successfully hosted the Southern Africa Broadcasting Association conference that carried significant strategic, diplomatic, and developmental benefits for Zimbabwe and the wider SADC region. Under the Ministry of Sport, Recreation, Arts and Culture, the minister reported progress as follows. The refurbishment of the National Sports Stadium is on course, and the development of the National Sports Association Hub is ongoing. The finalization of the National Languages Policy is expected by the end of the cycle, and the construction of the Shangwe Culture Center in Gokwe North is now complete. The designing and architectural drawings for the cultural village in Mrewa district has been completed, and the upgrading of the solar power system at the National Gallery of Zimbabwe has been completed. Under the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, the minister reported progress as follows. 97 primary and secondary schools were registered, and 10 schools infrastructure in terms of upgrading, in terms of the development partnership modality has been completed. 6 laboratories were constructed in order to increase the uptake in terms of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics subjects. The government and development partners completed construction of affordable, sustainable boarding facilities across the country. Under the Ministry of Local Government and Public Works, the minister reported progress as follows. The new city local development plans for Mount Abden are at 45% in terms of completion, and the Munumtapa National Housing Program in Manyame District, Mashonaland East is on course. The Veterans of the Liberation Struggle housing programs in Drimba and Mashingo are progressing well and set for completion within the targeted timelines. Regarding the installation of chiefs in Midlands, Mashingo, Mashonaland West, Manicaland, Mashonaland East provinces, progress has been achieved at 50%. On devolution, 91 out of 92 local authorities have an enterprise resource planning model pertaining to the 46th independence celebration. In terms of legacy, progress has been achieved. 298 houses were completed and 7 are at various stages in terms of completion for the Cholocho disaster recovery, and 157 boreholes have been drilled under the China Aid post-cyclone Idai recovery program. Cabinet received and adopted the update on the Kariba floating solar power plant. The Kariba floating solar power plant is an initiative to generate 600 megawatts on Kariba through private sector investment. The solar power generation is meant to augment hydropower supplies from Kariba Power Station, which has had fluctuations due to recurring hydrological constraints and declining lake levels. The Kariba floating solar plant seeks to preserve water during the day through solar generation utilizing water which will be available for increased night hydro power generation, and also to stabilize power output and to enhance climate resilience and ensure long-term sustainability in terms of Kariba power systems. The 600 megawatts project will be implemented in 3 phases over a 5-year period. Cabinet approved the proposal for Zimbabwe's participation at the Expo 2030 in Saudi Arabia from the 1st of October 2030 to the 31st of March 2031. Zimbabwe will participate at the Expo 2030, which will be held under the theme Foresight for Tomorrow. The Expo theme emphasizes on long-term thinking, innovation, and global collaboration in order to build a sustainable, inclusive, and prosperous future. The Expo will be much bigger than the previous Expos and will have 3 sub-themes, namely transformational technology, sustainable solutions, and prosperous people. Zimbabwe will participate under the prosperous people sub-theme in line with His Excellency the President's Vision 2030. Cabinet was updated on the status of families evicted from Wildale in Mount Update, Rimba district. Cabinet noted the emergency measures taken to assist the families concerned. Going forward, an interministerial committee comprising the Ministries of Local Government and Public Works, the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, Ministry of Lands, Agriculture, Fisheries, Water and Rural Development, the Ministry of Health and Child Care, Home Affairs and Cultural Heritage, Public Service, Labor and Social Welfare, the Ministry of National Housing and Social Amenities, and the Ministry of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services has been established to have an analysis and also to find a lasting solution to the issue regarding illegal settlements. Cabinet received a report on traffic congestion and the operational status at the Forbes border post in Manicaland province. An interministerial committee led by the Minister of Home Affairs and Cultural Heritage visited the Forbes border post on the 4th and the 5th of December 2025 to assess the situation and to institute measures to decongest the border post. A number of measures have been put in place, which include short-term, medium-term, and long-term measures. The widening of the main gate at the border post to enhance movement of traffic. All agencies operating at the Forbes border post to adopt 24-hour operations, and that more measures will be instituted in order to ensure seamless movement at the Forbes border post. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for presenting today's cabinet highlights. Let us move to the first round of 3 questions.
how will coordination work between national, provincial, district, and village structures in real-time disasters? And what early warning systems are being strengthened or introduced to ensure communities receive timely alerts during extreme weather events? And then to Minister Masuka, what measures are in place to protect dam infrastructure from overflow, damage, or collapse during potential storms or cyclones? I don't know if it's to agri or to local government with regards to the contingency plan. And then to the Minister of Information, how will modernization of ZBC improve content quality, competitiveness, and public trust? Thank you.
Yeah. Over to you, Minister. We'll come to the second round. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you, Chief. The first question is to the Minister of Lands on the mechanization part. How best we can have an inclusive approach in order to support smallholder farmers. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you, Chair, and I thank Chimombe for the important question. The rural development aid paradigm is made impact at the household level in order to uplift communities, 61% of the population that resides in communal areas, so that they too become economic participants of Vision 2030. So the first intervention is assurance of household food security. And that household food security must be in the context of changing climate. So we need a climate smart intervention, hence the adoption of Tumbuza into us. And we've seen yields, maize increase ordinarily by 49% on average compared to conventional. But we now have this mandatory 3 plots that a household has to do in order to receive presidential inputs. We've seen this year that we've done 15.9 million plots, the highest ever in history, compared to about 10.8 million plots that were done last year. And we've seen people that have actually gone beyond doing Tumbuza Intwasa plots for receiving presidential inputs to say Tumbuza is a good model, and therefore some have done 25 plots. So there now arises the issue. How do we ensure that this sustainable, intensive conservation model Tumbuza Intwasa is mechanized at pace and scale in order for this practice to be widely adopted? Government has gone now beyond a proof of concept to importing smallholder tractors. The first batch of 50 has arrived, 25 horsepower tractors. And in the first quarter of 2026, we believe that the remainder of the 1,620, each to one of those awards, rural awards, will now be available. And this will be linked, of course, to business units to allow the business model to take shape and for the repayment to eventually happen. So government is conscious of the need to mechanize Tumbuza Intwasa so that we can ensure that these productivity gains that we've attained over the past 4 or 5 years are really maintained. So a mechanization aspect is coming. Let me also take this opportunity to contextualize government's modernization approach. There are 2 century-old investments that revolutionized agriculture in 1900 or so. The first was a war, and the second was a plow. And those brought production and productivity to a new level. But these 2 century-old investments have done their bit. And in order to increase agriculture to the next level, we need to eliminate them. The first, the war must be eliminated by the adoption of a herbicide. And that is why government is distributing over 1 million knapsack sprayers to communal farmers so that they too can spray and control herbicides and ensure that they can maximize productivity. And of course, the second is the plow replaced by these appropriately sized mechanization gadgets, such as a tractor that is able to do the conservation farming. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. The second question, the deployment of AI in terms of the inclusivity approach, over to you, Honorable Mavetera.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Let me thank Mr. Indeed, we are very happy as Zimbabwe to have approved the National AI Strategy. But of course, it's our trust within the Ministry of ICT to make sure that we bridge the rural and urban divide. And what we have put in place within the AI strategy is for us to have a rural audit, AI audit, whereby we really find out our state of preparedness in terms of the adoption of AI within the rural population. I'm sure before we approved the AI strategy, we had the readiness assessment methodology report which was presented, which we collaborated together with the UNDP. And there we then noted areas of concern. And we then noted that there are issues to do with digital literacy, which we need to do. And we've done that through our digital centers. And like what you said, you had mentioned the issue of electricity. What we need to do is to make sure that we've got access to at least some power, and that we've done by solarizing our digital centers. Our digital centers are working as hubs within the various communities that we reside from. And these digital centers are going to assist us in digital literacy and also access to digital tools within various communities. We have also realized that there is need for us to be very deliberate in terms of the tools. And therefore, we need to come up with a package on our plan that we have for devices for all. We want to make sure that we've got a plan which will also satisfy the rural population in terms of access. The access to tools has been done by us even working together with other various institutions who have already started manufacturing and also assembling various tools, which includes our laptops and our phones. We really want to appreciate the likes of Bidura University, the likes of even HIT, and even our very own C2, which is already in the plan of making sure that we have got access to these digital tools. We have also realized that there is need for us to look and work on partnership. Partnership is going to be assisting us. We cannot be able to achieve an AI revolution as a country in isolation as government. We need to work together with various players, and these are going to assist us in making sure that we've got the resources for us to be ready for the AI revolution. So in terms of the tools, in terms of the literacy, even in terms of the infrastructure, we are very deliberate. Right now, we are glad that we have started having low Earth orbit satellites, the likes of Starlink, actually making sure that our rural population has got access to connectivity. But we still need to do more. We're expanding. As our report today, we even presented that we've even started deploying base stations in various areas of the country. So that has to be done by us making sure that we have access to connectivity, especially in the rural areas. We'll continuously, as government, make efforts to make sure that we have got connectivity in our rural areas, that will also enable our people in the rural areas to have connectivity. And just to also conclude, we have got various initiatives within our AI strategy that are very deliberate for us to make sure that the rural population is really satisfied in terms of AI adoption. And I really want to assure you that our AI strategy is from 2026 to 2030, and we are very positive that we are going to make sure that no one is left behind in terms of AI adoption. Thank you.
The third set of questions to the Minister of Local Government and Public Works in terms of the measures that have been put in place in order to manage in terms of contingency plans, in terms of any hazards, and what the government has put in place in terms also of dam contingency plans. So perhaps Minister of Local Government also complemented the Minister of Lands could respond to this, since the Civil Protection Unit is under the Minister of Local Government. Over to you, Comrade Geza.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Let me thank you. Glad to ask this question. I can't remember the name. question was just to what you've just given us. How do you decentralize information communication space that disasters, particularly in the very rural provinces? We have several communication systems that will develop. The first communication system is to use the indigenous knowledge system. People that are in the vulnerable areas, they've got science that they've developed which can speak to the oncoming disaster, be it rain-driven, be it wind-driven. So that's the knowledge that is communicated to us via the government structures, from the villages to the district development coordinators, to this cascade province and the central government, which is the civil protection unit. But also, with the advent of technology, we are now using, people have got exposure to radio information, television, use of social media. These are the various areas, systems that we use to communicate information upwards and downwards. So we predominantly focus on indigenous knowledge system, because that is the information that is there first before all other support systems come from central government, come from the local authorities. Local authorities, they've got clearly defined structures that we use to what goes and fit goes, which we also use. But we also use the ruling party structure system in terms of communication. The ruling party has got clear structures in the grassroots, which is very fast in ensuring that we disseminate information, which then comes to the Civil Protection Department, but we work very closely with the Ministry of Environment and Climate and the Ministry of Lands. It comes to information with regards to disasters, both natural disasters and human-created disasters. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Mhlanga, and Public Works. I responded relating to the aspect by applicable tenure. The various types of dams, the 10,600 plus dams, those that are 7 meters and below are classed as weirs generally, and those are farm weirs, earth dams that are constructed. You don't need to notify the minister responsible for water. And beyond that, when dam safety becomes an issue, should there be a breach of such a structure, then the minister responsible for water ought to be notified and then input through the technical departments into the structure and construction of that particular dam. So that's the first safety aspect at law. Then the dam safety inspection and maintenance must be an annual job, irrespective of the dam size. And this is where we see most farmers and institutions failing. We find lots of dams, the dam wall trees are overgrown, so it begins to erode the structural integrity of that particular dam. So routine dam maintenance is critical. But should there be an unfortunate development within the season, then we need to inject the early warning system. The early warning system ordinarily would come from the Meteorological Services Department, but also ZINWA. ZINWA does a hydrological seasonal prediction that the rainfall forecast is given by Meteorological Services Department is of a normal to above normal rainfall season. So ZINWA issues a hydrological forecast to say, based on this prediction by the Meteorological Services Department, what is the likelihood that we'll get flooding in the following dams? And we begin to have monitoring systems and real-time, near-time monitoring systems, and closer to when you get more closer to the disaster. This is now at the local level through the various communication channels that the Minister of Local Government and Public Works has clearly articulated. But the use of technology, including satellite technology, to be able to aid us in the early identification and deployment of preventative measures is absolutely critical. We're experimenting together with other riparian states of the Limpopo River Basin, the Zambezi River Basin, putting in technology and gadgets along rivers that will be able to tell us the fluctuations in flows
And because it's not just the river filling, but also the flow rates and everything, to be able to monitor and be able to predict better and be able to assist communities. So that's what we are doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Ministers. The last question from Abigail relates to content. Abigail, the modernization of Montrose Studios is part of the Zim Digital Phase 2 program. And ZBC as a public broadcaster is a key driver in terms of Vision 2030. But also central to the modernization thrust is the rejuvenation and the support in terms of a creative industry or a film industry, which is now being rejuvenated. Sometime last month, Broadcasting Cooperation at a strategic planning workshop. And central to the strategic planning workshop is how best the public broadcaster can support the film industry and many other creative related industries. But also to highlight that the Montrose Studios will be officially commissioned on Friday by His Excellency the President, Dr. E.D. Mhlanga. The Montrose Studios' major role is heritage-based broadcasting. This is a combination of both television and radio studios with other 2 studios mainly focusing on education as we broadcast in all the other constitutionally recognized languages. So the major focus in terms of Montrose Studios is heritage-based broadcasting. The Pockets and Barre Studios, in terms of the bill of quantities, it's work in progress, and Central FM in Gweru. But central to all this modernization thrust, which includes the expansion in terms of terrestrial and the policy and legislative interventions that we've put in place in order to support local content, because sports is universal, and the establishment of many other content hubs across the country, with a target for 2025 being the construction of 10 new content production centers across the country. The major focus is to ensure that we have the film industry in Ndau, we have the film industry in Kalanga, in Tonga, and in many other languages, in order to support the production in terms of the new 4 channels that will be established by the year 2026. But also the partnerships agreements which also support and buttress new content that will be coming for the year 2026, given that the public broadcaster has now been rejuvenated because of both the legislative and policy interventions in terms of the new integrated media policy. Agreements have been sealed with many institutions, both locally and internationally. A case in point is INSTAC, which is the Institute of African Knowledge, has been given a task in terms of the responsibilities in terms of the MOUs to be able to document the history before colonization, after colonization, both the first and the second Chimombe, from 1980 to 2017, the First Republic and the Second Republic, in order to cover each and every event. But at the same time, the partnerships with Zimpax. You know, Zimbabwe is rich in terms of the flora and fauna. As we document utilizing film technology, the movement of elephants, the lions, each and every animal within the geography of Zimbabwe, and how they contribute to tourism and many other aspects. So there is a rejuvenation of a new content sector supported by both the Ministry of Sports, Arts and Culture and the Ministry of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services. And part of our discussions at the strategic planning workshop included setting aside 10 million equivalent United States dollars in order to support content producers across the country, obviously supported by the infrastructure initiatives that I've highlighted, which included our proposals at the pre-budget seminar in Mhlanga Metropolitan Province that will have 10 new content centers across the country in order to ensure that we generate content that is heritage based. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ministers, for responding to those questions. Let us move to the last round of questions. Yes?
My name is Geza from Television Network. My first question will be directed to the Minister of Transport and Infrastructure. Overloading of haulage trucks has been identified as one of the key factors contributing to the rapid deterioration of our roads. What measures is government taking to ensure that truck operators comply with load restrictions? The second question will be directed to the Minister of ICT. For some time, we know that the Minister of ICT and the telecom operators have been seized with the cell tower relocation program, and while they've been doing a great job, it seems there's so many places that still have multiple cell towers in the same area, and we wanted to know what measures have been put by government to accelerate this process and ensure that telecom operators are co-sharing the towers and evenly distributed across the country. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Honorables. My name is Chimombe from Financial Express, and my concern is on the issue of Khalifa floating solar project. How is this project is going to be financed, and also who are the contractors?
Once Rujido from the Herald newspaper. My question is directed at the Honorable Minister of Minister, what do we derive from participating and attending expos such as Saudi 2030, and what have we derived before from attending such expos, Tokyo, Dubai, etc. And my second question is directed at Honorable Minister Mona. Minister, what can exporters expect from developments at the Falls border, specifically regards to trade facilitation, processing efficiency, and overall support for cross-border commerce? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Chief. It's Richmond once again. My question is directed to the Minister of Agriculture. There is a statutory instrument that empowers ZINWA to charge a levy for users of water on the ground and under the ground. The Minister has just said that government is drilling so many boreholes, especially in rural areas, especially where the 8.0 agricultural program is concerned. My question is, are these rural or small-scale holders also entitled to pay the levy to ZINWA for their agricultural activities in the rural areas? Or it is for private owners or private users of water on the ground or under the ground?
Abigail.
Thank you, Abigail Tembo, Secretary. Mine is related to the Minister of Sport. You noted progress on developing national sports associations. What reforms or capacity strengthening measures are being implemented within these associations, and how will these developments improve athlete development, administration efficiency, and governance standards? And also on the national languages policy, it is expected to be finalized by the end of the cycle according to the report. What key changes or provisions should the public expect in this policy? Thank you.
Over to you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Chief Secretary. The first question is to the Minister of Transport, and the fifth one is also to the Minister of Transport in terms of overloading of trucks, cross-border efficiency. Over to you, Honorable Mona.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. And let me also thank my sister, Sita, for the very important question that she has posed regarding overload, and to appeal to the people of Zimbabwe that nowadays you see the presence of our officials from VID issuing out tickets to those who will be overloading. And it is my humble plea that please don't come to our office to appeal for us to cancel those tickets, and we will not comply. And to address the question, the mitigatory measures that we are taking as a ministry is to attend to the issue of putting up way bridges on strategic sites. And I'm happy that through Zinara, this is the initiative. And as I speak, we lighted a tender, so you'll see us attending to this so that we make sure that especially on our trunk roads and also roads coming from mines, we have got functional way bridges. And you see this in a short space of time. And again, to say to the people of Zimbabwe, we are also busy and seized with the rehabilitation of our railway line, and therefore we appeal so that some of the loads that you be using trucks can be shifted to the railway line. And my brother Warren, again, the expectations from exporters by using the Fox border corridor, I want to emphasize that yes, as a country, just to mirror what our great leader, Comrade Dr. Mhlanga is saying, that Zimbabwe is open for business, and we also thank God. Strategically, we are positioned to be a corridor as a country, and this Fox border post, we are looking at Beira corridor, which actually connects us with Mozambique, Zambia, through Chirundu. And now we managed to secure a triple P arrangement where Forbes border post is being rehabilitated and the contractor is moved on site. The same contractor is also working on Chirundu border posts. So you see that it becomes a functional corridor, gravitating towards DRC through Zambia. So this is something that is happening. Not only that, but also the first quarter of 2026 will be rehabilitating the Harare-Chirundu road to buttress the issue of connectivity using the same corridor. And again, in terms of efficiency, we emphasize the use of single window platform at Forbes border so that we don't inconvenience our exporters. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The second question is to the Minister of ICT in terms of the progress that has been registered in terms of infrastructure sharing, in terms of base stations.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Let me also thank Madam Sita for that question, which is quite important. Indeed, the tower relocation program was a strategy that we deployed for us to be able to make sure that we bridge the digital divide. And for us to achieve that, we then came up with regulations which most of our telco players are supposed to comply with. I'm sure you are aware of SI 153, which we presented, I'm sure, last year, 2025, this year. I'm sure you realize that on that SI 153, it also speaks into penalties being leveled to our telco players if they don't comply to some of the regulations that we put in place. This is quite important for us to make sure that at least they safeguard the interests of the consumers, and at the same time they also comply to our regulations within the problem mapping plan. We also then went on to launch the problem mapping program this year. I don't know why I'm thinking right now in next year, my apologies. We went on to launch it in August this year. The broadband mapping exercise is supposed to identify where the gaps are, and we're able to also realize where there are more towers, and then we can then be able to relocate. So it's about regulations, and it's also about us coming up with a mechanism to also guide the telco players on what they're supposed to do. And thirdly, we are also using the Universal Services Fund, which is administered by Portras. And we are also using the Universal Services Fund, which is administered by Portras. The Universal Services Fund is also responsible for also relocating all these towers. So we have done that, and to date this year, we've managed to relocate more than 50 towers. And we still say it's still a process that we still need to continue doing. Need be that we get more resources, we'll be able to make sure that we have more towers being relocated. But I agree with you that you'll find out that at times you'll find 3 or 4 towers in certain areas. We are working on that, and we believe that it's a process that we really want to make sure that at least we have 1 tower on each and every location. I so submit. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The third and the 6th question to the Minister of Lands in terms of the floating solar plant and the bore levies. Over to you, Dr. Masuka.
Well, Kariba floating solar power plant is a novel development for Zimbabwe. It will perhaps be the first floating solar. And the scientists and engineers tell us that solar on water is more efficient than solar on land. In any case, the solar generation is from light and not from the heat from the sun. Then the footprint of this project will be 10 square kilometers within Kariba, which constitutes 0.1% of the 5,000 plus square kilometers of Lake Kariba. So very minimal environmental footprint. And on the land-based development, 35 square kilometers, and again about 0.6% of Charara, the game reserve. The investment is by a local investor, Wally Zimbabwean company called Green Grid, that approached the government with this novelty, and we felt that we generate on average about 1,600 to 1,800 megawatts of electricity a day, and there is now a private sector investment coming to do 600 megawatts, although first starting with 150 megawatts. This will complement the President's effort at Wange 7 and 8. The total cost would be between 550 to 650 million US dollars. We expect that by 2030, 2031, the whole project will be fully operational with a view to replicating it across other dam sites in the country. The reason why originally we had said the 100% floating solar was that we felt that it would be easier to just do so. But there are bi-national issues because Kariba is shared with Zambia, and there's Zambezi River Authority and other jurisdictions will require to give us all these permissions before we move on. So we felt that let's because of the energy deficit that we have, let's quickly roll out this project by starting with land and then gradually going into the water. I hope that I've contextualized the essence and importance of this project. And as I was saying earlier to the colleagues, there is called value of lost load, which is a measure of the economic impact of the project. And we are told that this project will generate $4.7 billion in the economy, which is close to about 10% of our GDP. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Masuka.
Then the goal. This is a very good question. Water is vested in the president in terms of the Water Act. The project is called a Presidential Rural Development Program. They advise that the president must charge himself as he drills his holes. We will consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Masuka. To the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the question came from Zim Papers. What have we achieved in terms of attending and investing in expos? I guess that was your question, right? Including the last Osaka one. Over to you, Professor Mhlanga.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. At his inauguration on 24 November 2017, His Excellency the President, Dr. Mhlanga, enunciated his foreign policy of making sure that Zimbabwe is a full part of the international community. And he announced the broad policy of engagement and re-engagement. And he said Zimbabwe is open for business. He also said Zimbabwe is a friend to all and an enemy to none. He ended even saying that our country shall be built by ourselves. But in doing all that, this is to ensure that Zimbabwe remains an independent and sovereign state. In order to ensure that all these things happen, Zimbabwe has to be visible in the international arena and become part of that international mosaic of 93 countries. A nation state basically is a basic unit of the world governance, but it has to interact with the outside world for its own economy, pursuing its own national interest of existence, as well as making sure that its people are prosperous. In pursuance of this goal and Vision 2030, His Excellency has made it a point that Zimbabwe exposes itself at expos in order for Zimbabwe to boost its economy. We went to Dubai 2020, Dubai 2020. And I will take item by item and say what were the benefits of it, what did we get from it. When we went to Dubai 2020, we as Zimbabwe exposed Zimbabwe so well to the world and attracted investment so well to the extent that by 2024, UAE is the largest destination in terms of monetary value of our exports. So number one export country is the UAE, followed by South Africa, followed by China, followed by Mozambique, followed by Zambia. Figures don't lie. We went to Osaka, and His Excellency made sure that Zimbabwe went there. And when we came out of Osaka, we opened the Asian market for our small and medium scale enterprises, for our agricultural products. We also opened for our tourism. And you would know that due to all those activities, Zimbabwe has been voted the best destination in the world 2025. This is because Zimbabwe is making itself visible. That's an image issue. And the number of tourists from the Asian market have actually increased. In terms of the way His Excellency has exposed this economy to the world, you would see that when he inherited this economy in 2017, we were exporting a value of 2 billion. Because of these activities, engagement, re-engagement, Zimbabwe is open for business, and all the activities, those exports have grown up to 10 billion. This is what a country does when it exposes itself to the world. Because when a country is interacting with the world, there are two things that happen, three things that happen. One, it asks itself what we need from the world, which we want to bring to Zimbabwe. Number two, what can we offer to the world that the world needs from us? Number three, what can we jointly work on with the world so that we enhance the livelihoods of our people in this country and the partners that we'll be working with. So investment figures have soared in this country. The economy has stabilized, and we have removed a lot of IQs. IQ for fuel is gone. IQ for bread is gone. IQ for all these things that you were queuing for is gone. There's no more IQ in Zimbabwe. There is I get. So you can see the positive impact that His Excellency has had through this foreign engagement. Expo Riyadh 2030. It's the Middle East, particularly Saudi Arabia, is a key country in the Gulf region. It's a key country in the Middle East. It is a wealthy country. It is a country that attracts people. And through these attractions, if Zimbabwe is there, where the world is, we can only exceed our vision 2030. The benefits are innumerable. There are so many, but most of all, the benefits will be seen in a satisfied stomach, a non-thirsty person, and a person with access to all the things that they need in this country. This is how a nation-state works into the world to protect its interests, peace and security, economy, as well as social cohesion when its people can eat. I thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Murwira. The last two questions to the Minister of Sports in terms of associations, the administration, the efficiency, and also the national languages policy. Over to you, Honorable Sanyaka.
Thank you, Chair. Allow me to start by addressing the issue of the National Sports Association Hub. Firstly, as the ministry, a lot more has been done. The work on the establishment of the hub, and we are currently in the process of facilitating the procurement of the necessary equipment to finish the hub. In essence, each and every discipline within the country has got its own association, followed by its own executive, as well as the constitution that governs the sporting activities of that particular association or discipline. With this in mind, we have as many associations in the country, and for us to enable easy of doing business as well as proper coordination and dissemination of whatever from the ministry to the association, then the establishment of the hub would then is aimed to centralize the operations of these associations. That will then enable the ministry to deal with the hub other than to tackle an association by an association, meaning to say the functions and operations of various associations will be dealt with and administered by the hub. Now, coming on to the issue of the national language policy. Indeed, the ministry has produced the draft for the national language policy. What we have now done with the policy, we have convened the workshops that were held in Mtare for the northern region for the validation of the very same draft. And just last month, we also had the workshop in Bulawayo that also was seized with the validation of the very same draft. And this time around, the ministry is now seized with finalization of the draft, and the benefit, according to the person of this policy, once the development and the launch of the national language policy will be done, it will ensure that the information on government issues, public service, including matters of health, social, and the legal documents, as well as court proceedings, will be fully covered in all official local languages to the citizenry. Meaning, say, the accessibility of the documents and the information will be at the disposal of the citizens all the way into the districts. And we will then drive the benefits of the policy on the local, on the national language policy. I thank you through you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Over to you, Chief Secretary.
Thank you very much, members of the state, for the questions. We also want to thank honorable ministers for responding to those questions. We'll come to the end of today's post-cabinet press briefing. I want to advise our colleagues that our last cabinet meeting is next week on the 16th. I hope to meet all of you, and you know what happens. Thank you very much.